Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Hydrangeas. This is a question I get all the time. People are so confused by the different kinds. When do I prune it? How do I prune it? And because there are so many different kinds, and there are different pruning methods for different types of hydrangeas. So you have to know what you've got. And very often it's very confusing. So here's a couple of things you should know. First of all, there are 49 species of hydrangeas in the world. 4 of them are native to North America. And the 2 that are most common, the ones that you run across, that actually have been bred from the native ones, is the smooth hydrangea and the oak leaf hydrangea. Now, in planting hydrangeas, remember the soil must be well drained. It must be moist, but they don't like wet feet. Now, that's a general rule because people have a hard time telling the difference between dry and wet. So what you want to do is you don't want to let your hydrangeas get droopy, okay? Whether they're in flower or whether they're in just leaf and growing. Particularly in high heat, you're going to see they're going to use a lot more moisture and you're going to have to water a bit more or more frequently would be the best way. Don't give more, do it more frequently. The hydrangeas, when you select a location for the planting, should be, morning sun works the best, or dappled shade for the afternoon. This is the rule for hydrangeas. Now, if you want to cut down on your watering frequency and the amount of water, you need to give the hydrangeas at least 2 to 3 inches of shredded bark mulch. Now, this means probably the pine or cedar mulch, whatever is available to you that's inexpensive. It's going to break down. It's going to give organic matter to the hydrangeas. And you're going to have to go and top it up every couple of years. Now, when you put down a mulch, you also have to set the mulch by watering it with a water wand. The water breaker on the end of the wand will soak the mulch into a mat, and that is very important. It means that it doesn't move around. So that will be one of the things that you need to consider when you place your hydrangea anywhere in the garden. Heavier clay soils have to be very heavily modified. Some people will take out and remove half of the soil from the hole that you're digging and improve the other half of the soil with a tremendous amount of organic matter or even a pro-mix style high organic potting mix in order to give the plant a good start. But it also means you may have to water a little more. It also depends on the drainage underneath, so make sure that the hole you dig is not like a well and smooth-sided. You want it to be jagged. You want it to be penetrated the walls. So if you're trying to move a very large hydrangea, one that's been established, then you're usually doing it in the spring, though you can cheat, and it's not easy. But take a garden fork and break the walls up so that the good soil can penetrate there, the water can penetrate there, and so will the roots. Otherwise, you end up digging yourself a clay pot that's been fired heavily so that you're holding all water, and it's like a pond instead of a growing medium hole. So there you go. There's the kinds of things that you need to know when you're doing hydrangeas. Now, if you're going to change your hydrangeas from one color to the other, you can. The problem is this: it's very hard to move a blue hydrangea to pink, but it's easy to move a hydrangea from pink to blue. Now, you can use aluminum sulfate, but the problem is this: aluminum sulfate will have to be timed and put on at the right times and the right amounts, because it can become toxic to the plant. So not only will the flowers not turn blue, but the plant will die. So it's more important that you use, let's say, garden sulfur. Pennies and rusty nails do not work, okay? So do not go and put them in there trying to change the color from pink to blue. Not going to happen. The 6 kinds, and there are 6 groups of hydrangeas that you will be running across when you go out to buy a hydrangea. One of the great things is this: there is only 6 kinds, but you're going to be able to pick the one you like, the color you like, the shape, the size, because I've been doing so much breeding, which is also the reason why you have so much confusion. So let's start through here with Hydrangea macrophylla, which is hardy to a USDA Zone 5. There are good ones in this group, but please remember that the florist hydrangeas, the ones you buy at Mother's Day, please do not put them into the garden. Put them in the compost. Get rid of them, because very often the flower buds will freeze off every winter, even in a protected location, but the plant will grow and always be beautiful, big, healthy, and leafy. But that's not what we want. And those hydrangeas are in this group of called big leaf. Okay? Now, they're hardy to the USDA Zone 5, and there's a whole bunch of them, and you'll probably start to realize, if I give you some of these, that the Hydrangea macrophyllus are really quite common. Abracadabra series, the City Line series, Edgy series, the Let's Dance series, which is one of my favorites, Parapluie, and Pink Shira is also in this group. So you can get these, and you're going to find them in most of your garden centers when you're in the U.S. Zone 5 or higher. Okay? So, big leaf. The next one is panicle. It's also known as the PG hydrangeas. They've been around forever and ever and ever, and there's a lot of improvements. I would never plant a PG hydrangea now. And if I were to buy a tree form, which they often do with the PG hydrangea stock, they may bud it on the top, but they use the Hydrangea paniculata to build a tree form. Now, these are small, but they do get rather large. And this one, because it is cone-shaped in its flower, is very, very popular. And it's hardy to USDA Zone 3. Yes, I said Zone 3. Okay? So that means very tough. some of the varieties that you're going to find out there that are common are Bobo, Firelight, Limelight, Little Lime, Little Lamb, Pinky Winky, I love that name, Quickfire. All of those are in this group. The Smooth is the next one, and you know this one. This is the Annabelle Hydrangea group. It is, again, Hydrangea arborescens. It is hardy to USDA Zone 3. Incredible is in this group. Invincible is in this one. Spirit and White Dome are just a few examples of the ones in this group. I like Annabelle because it's so regular, so dependable, and it does sort of spread, and it can be divided or layered, and you can make some new plants from them to move them around the garden. But there are so many available that I would probably not recommend it. Then there's the climbing hydrangeas. Now, climbing hydrangea petiolaris is really good. You can get this one, but it also puts out roots into the surface of stones, brick, and mortar. So that means that it will climb, hang on, etc. Birds will live in this. Okay, they'll build nests, and you'll be fine. Hardy to Zone 4, that's USDA Zone 4. And to be honest with you, it's the only one really in this group. There are a couple of varieties that are common, but not very many. The next one is the mountain group, and I've become muchly in love with this one. This is Hydrangea seriata, hardy to Zone 5 USDA. And I think basically the two examples I'll give you really do tell the story. Tough stuff and tiny tough stuff. And that's exactly what they are. They are tough. They're easy to grow. They do well. And, of course, follow all the rules for all the other hydrangeas. The next one is oak leaf, which is Hydrangea quercifolia. It's hardy to Zone 5. When I went to school for horticulture, we didn't get to see this one because they weren't really hardy in our area, and most people never grew them because they were big, they were ugly, they were woody, they were thin, because they were all the native ones. This is a native. But they have been doing some basic breeding. In fact, when we went to visit Princeton nurseries in New Jersey, when I was in school, they actually had the beginning of the program for some of the smaller, more compact varieties, and they were trying to get them a little hardier. They have managed to move it up half a zone with their breeding program. So we were starting to see a little bit of them, but basically you had to put them into a protected area to get them to do well. So if you're looking for them, look for Hydrangea quercifolia. There's the Gatsby series. These are going to be thick, very large cones with oak leaves, and the fall color on the leaves is spectacular. Usually it's yellow, oranges, reds, maroons, and purples, all on the same plant. So they can be very effective as a fall color, and you should look for them. But remember, all the rules for hydrangeas apply to this. Now, when do you prune these? The biggest problem with everyone, and everybody asks this one, when do you prune hydrangeas? Well, first of all, you always remove spent flowers from the plant. Then that encourages new growth and new flowers, And then you go in and you take out only what's dead. Now, what you want to do, if you do not know what you've got in hydrangeas and which group, what you're going to do is you're going to sit and watch. Does your hydrangea bloom only on old wood? Does it bloom only on new wood? Does it bloom on both old and new wood? That tells you which pruning you're going to do. And by looking at that, you do have to wait a season to really tell, but it's the best way to know when you didn't plant it, you don't know which one you've got. This will allow you to actually go and know how to prune your hydrangeas, because you could have any of the multitude of different hybrids from the breeding programs of these 6 groups of hydrangeas. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.